It has just been announced by the government that New Zealand will stay on in Iraq until June next year, but the number of Defence Force personnel deployed will be reduced by about 20. This country has been part of a joint training mission with Australia since 2015 as part of the international coalition fight against Islamic State. The Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, has just confirmed the extensions to the Iraq deployment, along with decisions on Afghanistan and 3 peacekeeping missions. Our political editor, Jane Patterson, joins us now from the parliamentary studio. Good evening, Jane.
Good evening.
Earlier in the year, Ron Mark, the Defence Minister, said our role in Iraq may change. Is that detail in the announcement this evening?
Look, there was a very strong signal from Jacinda Ardern that New Zealand's contribution is likely to look very different come June next year. Basically, what the Cabinet have done has given themselves some time to make those longer-term decisions. So the mandate agreed to by the previous national government was due to expire in November, but the actual training mission or the training program itself was due to go through until June. So Ms Ardern has said that this government will fulfil that commitment. Of course, remember, Labor was very critical of the Iraq mission, with then leader Andrew Little questioning the merit or the benefit of training Iraqi forces. Ms Ardern says that this does not equate to mission creep that Labor accused the other government of, but she said it's fulfilling that mission until June. Afghanistan as well, going through to September, and she said both of those contributions, and of course both of those contributions will be reassessed next year. And New Zealand has been in Afghanistan for about 20 years, so I wouldn't take this as any long-term commitment at all to that Iraq deployment in particular.
Yes, our involvement in Iraq, of course, getting some bad press, and now with that independent investigation into our role in Iraq and the revelations or the accusations in that Nicky Hager and John Stevenson book, Hit and Run. Ron Mark has been talking up how, I suppose, this could be a really a long-term commitment. I think he earlier said that Iraq has been munted, that the sort of infrastructure investment in that country would necessitate a long-term investment. How do you see New Zealand First's role in this decision, and can you comment on the Greens too, because Golriz Garman and others in the Greens have obviously been dead against this?
Well, Ron Mark, I did talk to him about this deployment a couple of weeks ago and asked him how his view had changed in opposition and then as Defence Minister being part of this decision. He said that it's clear New Zealand does have a role in Iraq, that it's really coming to the end probably of the training situation, but that's where New Zealand might move into another role in terms of helping with reconstruction, maybe a peacekeeping role, that sort of thing. So they're clearly also having to work within the context of very important relationships. So all of our Five Eyes partners, all of New Zealand's Five Eyes partners are part of the coalition Operation Inherent Resolve led by the US. So the relationships with US, Australia, who is part of that joint mission, they would have absolutely been part of the considerations when Ron Mark and Winston Peters as Foreign Minister and of course the Prime Minister started making those decisions. Another consideration that Ron Mark talked about was that New Zealand has so many deployments around the world, it's whether this was sustainable in any kind of long-term way. As for the Greens, of course, a confidence and supply partner, they say that they are still adamantly opposed to deploying troops in any kind of role, and of course this mission is in a non-combat role, but even to train, and that they would rather see the money that runs into the tens of millions spent on other things like humanitarian aid.
Yes, indeed. Some of the considerations, of course, that they will be considering, no doubt, maybe opening themselves up for more criticism about making an announcement, but with not so much detail in it. They're buying themselves more time. So just finally, what sort of considerations will they be looking at?
Well, just what I've outlined in terms of those, the coalition relationships with those other countries, the sustainability of it, but also a different approach from a government that does have the Greens in it that, well, not a huge amount of influence, I would have to say, but certainly input. They would wanting to be looking at how that defence money was being spent, how the personnel is being deployed, and of course we're seeing a reduction in numbers. The Defence Force has informed the Cabinet that about 120 rather than about 140 for that Iraq deployment will now be adequate through until June, and 3 other peacekeeping operations in South Sudan, Sinai Peninsula and Golan Heights also extended until 2020.
Thanks very much, Jane. Jane Patterson there, our political editor, with that very fresh announcement by the government that we are to remain in Iraq. More detail coming shortly.